So how are things looking on your end of the defense there these days?
It's looking pretty good. I think there's still a lot of fine tuning that we have to do. Um, there's still a lot of things that us as players have to get on the same page with, and I think that's all a part of what training camp is for, to allow us to sharpen up our skills, have some fun, compete, get the helmets and things cracking, and see where it all stands.
TJ, it seems Corey Coleman is a player under the microscope at this camp, and it so happens that you've been on him a lot in practice. How do you think those one-on-one battles are going with Coleman?
I think Coleman is he's been able to show me just from a one-on-one standpoint that he has a lot of attributes and talents. He has great hands, great speed. Um, he's very aggressive in some of the routes that he runs, and it's going to be a great competition. And me and him talk a lot on sharpening each other's skills and what receivers like to do and what defensive backs like to do. Just going against us, making sure that we're going against us, each other at our best. And so it's always good when iron sharpens iron.
He seems he's had some good days, and you've had some good days. Do you think that's the way that's going?
That typically is what happens. Sometimes he comes out and he has a couple crafty things that he's added to his game, and there's going to be times where I come out and I've enhanced and crafted some techniques that I like to see as well. And those are the things that you bounce off with each other. Is who's going to continue to win that battle day in and day out, and I love it.
One last thing, it seems like I've been close to where you guys end the play, and it seems like fans out here seem to be on him. Do you hear that, and are you surprised by that?
I don't really hear it. I most of the time when I'm on the field, or not most of the time, all the time when I'm on the field, I tune everything out. The only thing I'm really paying attention to is who I'm in front of and who I'm guarding.
I saw, I think it was a Rams corner, talking about how somebody just watches a play from practice, they might think a corner got beat, but he's really working on a technique or working on something. How true is that for you when you're out here? Any given play, you're covering guys 50 plays. How many are you really trying to just test something to see if it'll work?
All of them. All of them, because practice is the only really way you can sharpen your skills so that when you're going out into the game, you're not trying to try something you haven't done. So every given day, I'm working on something, and I have to also take the accountability that what I'm working on may not always work. And so within that stance, you come back to the film room and you say, all right, well, that's something that I'm going to throw out the tool bag. That's something that I can't bring to the game, or that's something that I can't use versus these type of receivers. And so in every instance, every day I'm working on something different, and I'm understanding that I'm at risk when I'm working on that. And so there are chances where you're going to get beat, and there's going to be chances where you're going to give up things that you normally don't give up because you're playing a technique that you haven't worked a lot of.
Is that something you have to tell the coaches so they don't think you're getting beat?
Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But most of the time, if you tell the coaches, like, look, coach, I want to work on this today, that still doesn't give you a pass to get beat. They still expect you to come out here and compete, and that's something that you have to hone in your craft. That you have to have a counter off of what's going to happen if that does happen.
What's your initial impressions of Denzel Ward?
Oh, I love him. I love him, man. He's a very sound player. He's a young player that has an old man mentality in the sense that he comes into this game and he knows that everybody straps up their cleats the same way. We all put on our socks the same way. There's no different. The name means nothing. And that's the approach that you have to take when you come into this league, because you see the names get hyped up a lot, and that could play an effect within your mentality. But if you have the mentality that, man, we're all the same people, and I'm going to go out there and compete just as if I competed anywhere else, you'll be all right. And that's what he's done pretty well.
How's your cornerback room here comparing to what it's been in the past?
Very competitive, man. There's days where, I've had a couple bad days, and it's like, man, you got our other corners, they're all making plays, and it always puts you on eggshells that if you're not making plays days in and days out, our room is so talented. The way I see it is, you don't know what's going to happen within that depth chart. So you always have to bring your game, every day, because we're here to compete. And if you're not making plays, then there's a problem.
TJ, at the same time, there's been talk of the Browns being, Rashad Breeland is here. Jones was here. Do you wonder what's going on? Are they not satisfied? How do you interpret those?
Those are things that the front office handles. As far as my standpoint, all I can do is worry about me and what TJ puts on film and what TJ is doing out here in training camp. I can't be distracted about all the news that goes on outside of what I'm doing here. And so the focus that we all have, and I know myself personally, is as long as I'm out there putting great stuff on film, I have nothing to worry about.
TJ, how does the overall talent here stack up against what you saw in Oakland over the last 4 years?
I think the talent is different based on the scheme, and I think the scheme that we run, we have a lot of talented players with a lot of depth here, and I think that Coach Williams does a great job with being able to exercise all the talent that he has with the things that we do on defense. And so when you look at our defense, man, we have guys that you think, why is he even in that position? But it's because he's so talented that Coach puts and makes a spot for him to be on that field. And so the comparison is a lot different just because the scheme is.
When you're talking about the depth of the corner and the depth chart, how it can move, I just drew over a week of practices. How do you think you have played, and do you feel like that starting corner job is yours?
I think I need to get better, and that's my standpoint every day that I come in here, whether it's effort, whether it's hustling, whether it's picking up loose balls, whether it's strip attempts, whether it's the number of PBUs or picks that I have. To me, I haven't had a dominant day yet, and that's the standpoint that I look at myself at, and I hold myself very high with the accountability that I should be able to go out there and shut down the whole side of the field.
Do you feel like, how important is it to you to be one of those starting corners with one?
Definitely. I mean, if you're not in this business to be a starter, then you're in the wrong business. And I think that's the approach that we all have as corners in this standpoint. And I think for every position, you always want to be the starter, but you also know that in order to be the starter, you have to be able to be accountable for the things that you're doing on that field. And if you're not doing them, there's going to be somebody else in that position.
TJ, what have you learned about Terrence Mitchell?
Terrence Mitchell, man, I've watched his game throughout the years. We've came in together. He's very savvy. His technique is very sound in what he does, and I like his energy, man. Terrence Mitchell is a guy that you can say, hey, man, go play fullback at offense, and he'll run down there and say, where it's at. And that's something that I like within his attitude. He always has a positive attitude. He's a guy with high energy and someone that we're going to continually need on this team because we all feed off that energy.
Christian tweeted in the offseason about playoffs and that Jarvis says the team's talented enough to make the Super Bowl. Do you like those kind of expectations, I guess, going into a season? What's the overall vibe then, I guess, in terms of optimism?
I mean, every year the expectation is to win a championship. And to me, like I say again, if you're not in that, if you don't have that mentality, then you're in the wrong business. Whatever we do in this business is to win. Whether it's me getting out here on the field first, whether it's me getting in the cold tub first, whether it's me waking up and getting here early first. That's the mentality that our coaches have set into our mind, is to always win and to compete at everything you do. And if you're not competing, then there's a problem with that. So that expectation is nothing short of what we expect to do. And it starts here. I mean, you can have all those expectations, but if you're not putting those things on the field day in and day out, then they become very hard to obtain. And so from that standpoint, I think we take it one day at a time, and from that day, making sure that each day is perfected to the best of our abilities, then we won't have nothing to worry about when the time comes.
Before you and 23 and 24 your teammates came to Cleveland this offseason, this is an organization that frankly didn't know how to win. How much can you and your teammates help the guys that were here and are still here learn how to win in this league?
I think the guys that were here always had the mentality. Since I've gotten here, they had the mentality to win, and you can see it within their play on the field. You can see it within the knowledge of the defense that they have, and you can see it with how they carry themselves. And so I think we're just adding pieces to what they've already had, and I think the pieces that we can add to the table is just continuing to bring cohesiveness, continuing to bring that team mentality, and continuing to bring the attitude of expecting to win going into the game and expecting to be in a position where defensively we want that opportunity where the game's on the line. And I think that offensively they want that as well. So from that approach, I would say that everyone's buying into the system and everyone's had the mentality to win. Like I say, it starts here.
A couple more for TJ, guys.
TJ, are you familiar with what LeBron James did down in Akron with opening the public school?
I think LeBron has done an amazing job with him being here in the state of Ohio, period. And I think that's another one of the pieces that you can add to the resume on how he's trying to give back to the community that he's grown up in, the community that he's been so involved in. And I think it sets precedence for what we should do as athletes on how we are a role model to a lot of kids that we may not know, that we may not see, but that know us. And so from that standpoint, you know, big ups to LeBron for doing that. And I think it just adds to another level of expectation that we have to expect from us is, are we doing enough?
That's just what I wanted to ask you. He's inspiring kids, but as a fellow professional athlete, do you feel inspired or motivated by him to want to do more?
Definitely, definitely. You know, I think with my foundation, trying to brand what I've taken in Oakland and bring it out here to give kids within the community more of an advanced learning type of system because of the opportunities that we can provide these kids, it speaks volumes. And, you know, I'm talking to my team now, okay, LeBron's doing this. You know, we're not on his level, but for the level that we're on, what can we do to achieve and make a huge difference within the community out here?
I think a lot of guys feel that way. Is this something that you're kind of doing some self-evaluation, like, how can I give back? I think that beyond you, TJ, that there's others that feel the same way?
I definitely do. And I think that every other athlete has a different way of giving back in the sense that, you know, they may give back in a certain area that they feel they're passionate for. So for that standpoint, you know, I think every athlete has a passion on how they want to give back, and they choose to use that passion to give back in that nature.
How do you feel about his political stances? I mean, he said that some of the things that are said now in Washington are by the president are trying to divide people, and sports is about uniting.
I don't know how I feel about his political stances because those are his political stances. You know, from that standpoint, I'm just a spectator watching from what he says. And I think that things that he says is how he feels. So from that standpoint, I don't pay too much mind to that.